questions about
Angela live, uncle.
Yes.
Hello, Angela live, huh?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Victorian Senator Richard McKenzie says Mr Andrews and his ministers must explain why they went ahead with the games in the first place. In our type of democracies, hopefully it's not just up to the Premier, there is a cabinet process. And so all the ministers responsible cast
For those who have tuned in, this is 97.7 FM. Continue to share the video, and we will be discussing a great topic today around cultural journey, understanding the tradition of initiation among the Dinka of South Sudan. And today with me is our uncle, Atem Yakatem, Ustaz Atem Yakatem, and he's joining us on live. So after the news, we'll go for a short break and we'll be back. So continue to tune in. And if you have any questions, please continue to send them through and share the video.
So that's not to say that it wasn't a tough experience for individual firms dealing with these restrictions imposed by China, but the impact on Australia overall has been quite small.
A new report suggests the mental health of Australia's youth is rapidly declining. Provider Headspace argues current funding isn't enough to recruit and retain the staff needed to treat the rising rates of mental illness in young people. The wife and children of a former US Marine accused of training Chinese military pilots have rallied outside a Sydney court. Daniel Duggan has been in custody in New South Wales since October, facing possible extradition to the US. He denies any wrongdoing. Medic alerts are getting a 21st century makeover in South Australia. QR codes will be engraved on them, giving medics instant access to a patient's records in the event of an emergency. Watching too much television as a child can lead to poor health as an adult, and the experts are saying it's serious. Nikki Elliott explains.
Researchers from the University of Otago in New Zealand have discovered the link between poor childhood TV habits and metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions which includes high blood pressure, high blood sugar, excess body fat, and abnormal cholesterol levels, which all lead to an increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. A study of 879 participants aged 5 to 15 found those who watched the most television were more likely to move less, have reduced sleep quality, and consume more sugary drinks and high-fat foods. Nikki Elliott, Air News.
And one of the designers behind the iconic Twitter logo says he is sad to see the original Bluebird replaced. The platform is being officially rebranded as X, marking the biggest shift since Elon Musk took over the company. Martin Grasser has told CBS the logo was special to a lot of people.
It feels like the best memories of the internet's adolescence. That's the best way I could put it. It feels like something you remember fondly from your teenage years that probably is going to change and not be the same as the way it was, which is a shame.
This is Air News.
KC Radio 97.7 FM Sports.
Queensland origin young gun Tom Gilbert has committed to a long-term deal with the Dolphins. A significant extension of his contract will keep him with the club until at least the end of the 2028 NRL season. The Warriors are eyeing off a top four finish after a brilliant first season in charge for coach Andrew Webster. They've climbed to third place on the table with all 5 remaining games against the bottom 8 teams. League guru Phil Gould has told 100% Footy they are still getting better and better each week.
He's a very well-travelled coach. He's really done his apprenticeship over a long period of time. If you remember years ago, he was an interim coach for a short time there at the West Tigers before Ivan Cleary came in there. And Ivan took him out to Panthers and was a part of the great system out there. And he's just taken his trade elsewhere.
AFL and Geelong veteran Mark Blitzarf is hoping that rival teams are still intimidated by the Cats. The reigning premiers haven't been as strong this season, but they remain in contention to play finals. Blitzarf is confident his side can lock in a top 8 spot and be a difficult side to beat in September.
I feel really confident that we've got a team that can go all the way, but there's a few teams that are playing some really good football. They'll be looking at the other teams playing some really good football playing. So, it's a tight competition.
Australian Independent Radio News.
97.7 FM, the voice of the Southeast. Weather, it's currently 10 degrees. Covering the outer southeastern suburbs of Melbourne.
You're listening to KC Radio 97.7 FM.
You're listening to People Powered Radio, proudly supported by the Community Broadcasting Foundation. cbf.com.au.
Entertaining the Southeast, KC Radio 97.7 FM. With music, news and information, it's the South Sudanese show.
بعنوان بخش ارتقای سرک ناروارن کرانبون با در حال اضافه کردن خطوط اضافی بین سرک تامسونز و شاهرهای ساوت گتلند هستیم. ما با چهارراهی ها ارتقا میدهیم و ما مسیرهای جدید پیاده‌روی و بایسیکل سواری برای بهبود امنیت و کاهش ازدحام میسازیم. برای بهبود جستجو کنید.
Executive Dry Cleaners draws on experience and knowledge from as far back as the 1920s, which has been passed down from grandfather to father to son. Using the highest quality products enables us to provide customers with what's become a family tradition: quality dry cleaning, a service that's second to none. Executive Dry Cleaners, 14 High Street, Cranbourne, where only the best quality. Stations one.
Evolution Music, Limbrook stock a wide range of musical instruments, including guitars, drums, pianos, and keyboards, amplifiers, PA equipment. They also stock strings, leads, and other accessories. And if you ever want to learn an instrument, their Teaching Academy teaches 6 days a week. Contact our sponsor today at www.evolutionmusic.com.au.
Ever considered volunteering? Did you know the City of Casey runs a TAC L2P Learner Driver Mentor program? In this program, you can volunteer to help a young person get the driving hours needed to obtain a probationary license. These young Casey residents don't have access to supervising drivers nor a car and cannot get the driving experience needed to get their license. To find out more, visit the City of Casey website and search L2P or call the City of Casey. Make a difference. Sign up today. Casey Radio, serving the community.
Do you like your music cool and blue? Then Barb Cool has the show for you. Cool and Blue with Barb. Tuesday nights from 8 till 10 on your local station, 97.7 FM.
97.7 FM, the sound of the Southeast.
بعنوان بخش ارتقای سرک ناروارن کرانبون با در حال اضافه کردن خطوط اضافی بین سرک تامسونز و شاهرهای ساوت گتلند هستیم. ما با چهارراهی ها ارتقا میدهیم و ما مسیرهای جدید پیاده‌روی و بایسیکل سواری برای بهبود امنیت و کاهش ازدحام میسازیم. برای بهبود جستجو کنید.
Once again, I would like to say thank you for those that have tuned in
At Very
today.
Lodge Primary School, we recognise that our future lies with our children. Since 1990, we've been involved in a broad range of curriculum programs ensuring that our students have the best of opportunities. Learning takes place in a friendly, happy and positive
I'm trying to set it.
Any problem?
I'm just trying to set it in the studio, but talking, this should be fine.
It's all right.
One
Welcome back from that great break. This is 97.7 FM, and it's me, Jack Manyok, hosting this show tonight and always every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. It is time for all the South Sudanese who are listening out there to come and learn more about the cultural journey show that we have been hosting now for 3 weeks in a row. Last time we did start with the cultural understanding of the four rite of passage. We talked about birth. We talked today. We will talk about initiation, and in other shows to come, we will talk about the um, the marriage and the death and the celebrations around them, and how each and every community within the South Sudanese communities celebrate one of these great events in one's life. And today I am joined by one of our elders, a scholar, author, someone who is known in the liberation struggle, somebody who been in the trenches, who fought for this country, and is here with us, our elder, Atim Yakatim, the former Minister of Information in the government of South Sudan. I'll read a little bit about Atim, his biography, and I will give him a chance to say hello to all our listeners that are listening out there. And also, you can be part of these great conversations. You can either send your question through on the Facebook for those who are following us on Facebook, and also for those that are listening in their cars, you can dial 599 66977, 599 66977. I will give a chance now to our uncle to say hello to all of you, and we will start our program shortly, and I will read his bio. Uncle Tim, welcome to KC Radio.
Thank you, Jack, well, and welcome.
Thank you for joining us today. We are really thrilled to have you. And today we will talk about really a great topic about initiation among the Dinka in the South Sudanese community. Can you tell us more about this special? First, about yourself, and also about your understanding in regards to the initiation itself, which is being practiced within the South Sudanese communities, especially the Dinka?
Well, first of all, I'm a journalist by training and practice, and I have been part of both the traditional society as well as Western world. Um, so during my childhood, I used to be with the young boys who were heading cattle, and during the dry season, when the cattle camps were moved to the swampy areas of the Tosh, I would go there even at the time I had gone to school. And so I grew, I spent most of my childhood in the village at the cattle camp, and that gave me the opportunity to know the traditions of the people, their practices, and because of my formal education, I've been to the different places. I started with people from different cultural backgrounds. Been to Sudan, Khartoum, where I spent almost 10 years, and also to Europe, where I studied, especially in the UK, Germany. Then I had been to East Africa, Ethiopia for several years, Kenya several years, and now in the West. So, in a way, I could say I have some ideas about the traditional societies as well as the what they call modern societies. And when we talk about traditions like uh, initiation of young men into manhood, these were things which I didn't undergo them because by the time I should have done that, I was already in school, and my age group were initiated when I was away. But I had seen that with some, like my elder brothers, who were initiated into manhood when I was a very young boy. So that's my background.
Thank you, and we are really blessed to have a person of your caliber among us within the South Sudanese community here in the Western world. As you know, in most of the listeners that are, and that's why we're speaking in English. Most of the listeners that are out there are young people, or some were born here, some came to this country when they were young, and some of them are trying to understand their cultural roots. Can you briefly tell us, like? As a Dinka man, initiation is one of the rabid tradition, which is highly and practiced within the Dinka culture. Can you tell us at what age and is the person initiated, and how is it performed, and who
Well,
participates?
I think the age was not really fixed. Like here, when you talk of school age for children, you talk about when the child is 5 years, that child goes to primary. But with the Dinka, like most of their counterparts in other parts of South Sudan, where literacy was not there, was not widespread. Most of the children, almost every family did not have exact year of when the child was born. They would have, they have their calendar where when they wish, they, they take very important events and they say the year when this thing happened. Sometimes you would have two important events happening in the same year, but because of their importance, they would say this was the year so and so, this was the year of election, for example.
Yeah.
So the age of initiation should be by approximation, probably starting from about 16 upwards, 16 to 18. It could not be real exact, but that was a time when the young man was seen to be old enough to undertake very serious issues. Say, for example, like tending cattle. We would expect wild animals like lions attacking cattle, and this
Right.
young person looking after the cattle will have to face that animal, and they would not expect a boy to be exposed to such a situation. So it used to be at the time when the the boy was seen to be mature enough to face hardships and to cope with them. So
So,
it could be between 16, 17 up to 18, 20. There was no exact age, but
uh,
the boy was old enough. Well, the boy should be old enough to put up with hardships.
okay, that's in term of age, but also in term of participation. Like, what practices do they do to instill that manhood or that that ability for a boy of that age to to withstand any challenges either that are, like you mentioned about if a person go tending to kettles and maybe a wild animal come up and they are in a positions to either protect or protect themselves and protect the animals that they are. So what are some of the practices that do occur during the initiation that really gives those young people confidence?
Well, the the initiation actually was a transition from childhood or boyhood to adult, and the other factor, apart from physical ability or endurance, the power of endurance, which would be expected at that age, because the role of a man is somebody prepared to face difficulties on behalf of the community or family. The There was this question of division of labor, where roles were assigned to people according to their ability.
Hello?
Children,
Please leave a short message.
Go, yeah, continue.
yeah,
Okay, in terms of the assign of the role, also what about why is it important as the Dinka? Why was it so significant that the initiation has to be done?
yeah. This was to, I mean, children, for example, suppose they there are certain things expected of somebody who is no longer a child.
Okay, honestly, I really don't know. I'm online. Okay, I'll text you. Sorry, I'll text you. I'll text you.
And no problem.
No,
And
no, go. No, no, there's no problem. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll just stop you
yeah,
for this.
yeah.
Yeah.
For example, the children were supposed to be protected, and they when children like those under 20, under 15, they their behavior, uh, they, 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 they should be seen as people who need protection, and their behavior, they people will not expect too much from them in terms of behavior. For example, uh, shedding tears or crying is would be allowed because they say, well, this is a shy. But for somebody who has been initiated into adulthood, one will not cry because they say, okay, if you find a child uh, and you also cry, then who is going to help that child? So
Hmm.
certain behaviors, like um, one was not supposed to be complaining when there was or when there is a situation, unbearable situation like pain, or when one is hungry. Um, Food also there must be etiquettes. You don't need to eat in public or in places where from families which are not related to you. And also at this age, starting even before initiation, one is expected to keep the secrets of your group. If there is a certain decision you have made within that group, something to be done and not to be known to other people, you have to keep
So
that to yourself
is
until
that
it.
a group which is the eight set, the group which is initiated together?
Yeah. Pardon?
I mean, is that the secret of the team? I mean, the age
Yeah,
group that was initiated at that particular time.
yeah. You have to be you have to keep the secrets or certain activities you are performing within the group. One shouldn't expose some of the inner workings of your group. And the word is always called lum. Lum is a careless or intended exposure of a secret between two people or a group. So when one is initiated, already one has been coached to not to be very loose with talk. Oh, we saw this thing or did this thing somewhere. No, you have to keep it to yourself. Um, and that's expected for the initiated person to be a keeper of secrets within a group, and also not to express pain. I mean, not to show weakness in terms of, say, for example, when one is hungry, uh, one should not even attempt to ask for food, even from within the family. One is supposed to be seen to be somebody who could put up with all the hardships without complaining. Role model for the young people. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you. That's really great, and I think that's really a tough training, and reflecting that to the Western world that we live in, and knowing that this ceremony is quite significant within the culture. Can you a little bit briefly before we go to a short break? Can you briefly touch on the ceremonies? What are some of the ceremonies that are performed to these new initiates, the people that will be initiated? What are some of the ceremonies within, and how binding are they to the tradition?
Well, it has been uh, some of the ceremonies have been changing from time to time. Long time, um, especially going back to the 50s. Um, people from young people from the area now known as Duke County, which is Duke Padiet and Duke Payuet, who whose population are neighboring the Nuer districts, Akobo and Fangad. The young people there were initiated into manhood through marking the 6 marks on the forehead. It was very common, and it also was practiced in part of what is now known as Tree East, because the whole concept, probably similar to that of the practice by the Nuer, was that it exposed the young people being initiated into endurance, accepting hardship. I mean, without crying. It was a test
Hmm.
of your ability to cope with pain without crying. And then after you had been marked, people would see you with the 6 marks on your forehead. They would say, wow, this is a man enough, because the pain involved in cutting these marks was not an easy thing. So that was part of it. Then again, it started declining, and people were being initiated just in some places there were no ceremonies as such. In what we now know as Bo South, they would come as a group and they would shave their head and they would sit together. They would stay together for a number of days, and it would be announced to the public that these people have been initiated to manhood. Also in Barizal, they had different ceremonies in lakes, different from Warab and Awil area. Um, the the last two areas I mentioned, one of the forms of initiation was circumcision of men. This was also carried out as a way of a young person passing from boyhood to adulthood. So there were different forms, um, and it has been changing from time to time, except the one practiced by Rek and Malwal.
Thank you so much, Ustaz Atem. We will be back for those who are tuning now. You're tuning to 97.7 FM. And
Yeah.
today we are discussing a very, very important topic about the initiation among the Dinka. We will go for a short break now. We'll listen to a great song from Bari community and we'll be back again with our interview. So continue to stay tuned and we will be back shortly.
Thank you.
بخشی از پای سرک ناروالن کرانبون مادرحال اضافه کردن خطوط اضافی بین سرک تامسونز و شاهرهای ساوت گتسلند هستیم. ما به چهارراهی را ارتقا میدهیم و ما مسیرهای جدید پیاده‌روی و بایسیکل سواری برای بهبود امنیت و کاهش ازدحام میسازیم. برای بگویید جستجو کنید. Hello, I'm May and I live in Aviva Communities Officer. I love living here. The people are wonderful. I enjoy making new friends. There's always fun social activities to take part in. It's a quiet, low-maintenance lifestyle, and if you're eligible, there's government assistance for aged pensioners. It's just wonderful living here.
To start living your quality lifestyle, Google Aviva Communities Officer, station sponsor. Come on down to Cracked Actors Theatre this winter and cozy up to some of the best theatre in town. Quality and affordable theatre. The perfect gift for any lover. Google Cracked Actors Theatre and click on our website. See you at the Cat, station sponsor.
Did you know there are 7 park runs in KC? Get along on any Saturday at 8 a.m. to a fun and social walk near you. More information, head to parkrun.com.au/Berwick Springs. Community minded 97.7 FM.
As the dawn breaks, 97.7 FM features old school country, bringing you the music of Dolly, Loretta, Jimmy Nichols, and Dusty and more. Old school country, Saturday mornings from 5.
The station for the local community. 97.7 FM, the sound of the Southeast.
Welcome back from that short break. For those who have tuned in, you have tuned in to 97.7 FM, and today I am joined by Uncle Atem Yakatem, and we are discussing a very, very important topic. And for those who have sent in the comments, thank you so much for that, and continue to follow in, continue to share to the rest of your friends, invite your family members, and if you are listening to us in your car, please, you can be part of this great program by dialing in 59966 it's me, Tuja Jack Munyok, here on KC Radio. Thanks, Uncle Tim. You've covered so much, and I know there's a lot that we could discuss on this topic. But briefly, this is a very uh, significant ceremony within the Dinka, and it does relate with their customs and their traditions and everything. And we have the families of young men, young boys that are born here, that grew up here. Some who came really young, and now they are transitioning to adulthood. Some of them have already transitioned. There's a Western way of, if you become 18 years of age, you are considered an adult. Traditionally, there has to be a ceremony. There have to be an initiation, a path, a transition whereby you are transition to the next to become an adult, to gain that confidence, also to gain that endurance, and all the things that you mentioned before. Is it something you, as an elder, and you have lived in both worlds, is it something that you see it can be done here in the Western world? And what are some of the barriers that you might have identified that could maybe not allow it to be done? Is it something that can be done to start with?
Yeah, I think the some of the what happens is that traditions and cultural practices are always subject to change depending on prevailing situation where these things are being practiced, and also the question of migration of people from rural areas. These were better preserved or kept alive depending on the environment people were in. For example, in the rural areas, it was possible to maintain those cultures relating to initiation and other things like marriage. But once people moved to urban centers, it was very difficult to continue with some of these practices. I understand when during the war, the last war in Sudan, some of the South Sudanese who went to Egypt, and when elders were conscious about, they were concerned that some of the practices were being lost. So I'm sure they started organizing initiation of young men into adult, uh, and this one was done in the cities. Possibly some people would say, all right, why don't we have it also here in Australia? As you have seen, the young people here, especially men, they associate. I think the area where they come together is the sports.
Mm.
The the practices, which traditional practices like dancing, are no longer practiced here. Or if they are done, they are occasionally maybe on wedding days. But young people, as far as I've seen, hardly come together to do to share certain practices. For example, maybe during weddings they come and they mostly they dance using Western music, not the Dinka music, dance. Uh, in my opinion, some of the cultural practices are dying because the young people who are growing up, they are picking more of Western ways to replace their practices at home.
Is
Which
that
yeah,
is it because that the Western ways are easy to adapt, or is it because the traditional ways are best seen as backward? What would be the contrast here?
well, it differs. I will not pin it on one specific case. Uh, probably, probably the need why we in the West. I mean, in traditional African society,
Mm.
there was this distribution of labor or sort of roles. And for example, most of you may know that back home, men had nothing to do with what was being prepared for a meal being prepared. This was the domain of women.
Mm.
Men would bring meat after hunting and give it to the women. No man would be expected to get involved with how it is, how that meat would be prepared, would be distributed. That's the region of the women. And any person, any man trying to interfere with that person was doing something unacceptable because roles were clear. Go and hunt. This is suitable for men. Distribution, I mean, preparing the meat or fish for the family is the role of the wife or the sister or whoever. And even the grain in the granary,
Mm.
once it is put there, this belongs to the woman. The same with the milk. Everything belongs to the women. And this is why men are not supposed to milk. They are not supposed to cook because men are supposed to bring raw material or food in any form. Once it is brought home, that's the role of the women and possibly the children. So the initiation that at home would prohibit any initiated person to be seen hovering around the kitchen. This is not their area. You would even be inviting being seen as somebody uncivilized if you are seen to be, because why don't you allow them to do it. It is their responsibility. Your responsibility to bring the raw material or the food. And then the women have to prepare it. So these things like initiation were necessitated by the environment where uh, there was division. Here in the West, there is very thin line between the role of women and the men. Men cook, and so at home there, an initiated person would not be expected to cook or milk. Of course, there would be situations like if men were alone in a place which was far from home, and they had a milking cow, uh, and there was nothing else to eat. One man would volunteer to milk the cow for the rest of the people, and we would never taste that milk. That was the only occasion when one would be forced to milk the cow or to cook. But otherwise, the division was very sharp. The kitchen is the province of women. Bringing things for the kitchen was the role of men. So, to me, the things like initiation are a victim of this idea of, I mean, people have come to embrace other cultures which do not really make a difference between the role of what a man can do or what women can do. Once your wife has gone to work, you have to cook. Yeah.
Definitely.
At back home, you would be seen as somebody, I mean, they would compose a song against you. Yeah. So some people may regret that these things are vanishing, but that's the nature of change.
And on the topic of the change, you have clearly covered it, like with the current life that we live in, with the work here and other necessities that each and everyone has to go after, whether a man or a woman, or we do not at the moment here the gendered role that used to exist within the society are of a blurry line at the moment, because we are forced because of what. But taking the context of initiation itself, and it's important in building that young man or that young boy into a young man who is responsible within their community in terms of, because traditionally I think once you are initiated there are responsibilities expected of you. You might be, when elders are going to maybe sit in their, those local courts, you will be expected to sit there. If there's any fight between two communities or families, you would be expected to listen, or you can contribute. You are considered as an elderly person. Now we have young people here who are at the age of 20s that still thinks they are still boys. Do you think it's quite necessary that part of the initiation that cannot go with the current situation that we live in can be left out, and the other part that groomed young people, that make them like men, that make them responsible, that make them also that I cannot do this thing because I am considered in my community as a leader or considered as an elder, and it would be shameful of me to do this. So as an elder, do you think there can be a space whereby this can be taught to the young people, or any other type of, or the importance of that initiation can be done in a different way to build these young boys that were born here, these young people that came when they were young, into their adulthood and become responsible people of their community?
Yeah, I think the environment here would not really encourage. I mean, it's very clear that a society like the Australian society, they are very tolerant about the migrant community practicing or living their ways as long as these things are not contrary to what they call good conscience. They have no problem with people celebrating their what about occasions, national occasions or cultural things, as long as these are not contrary to the law. The problem is we used to have situations where young people would gather together, and this is where their behavior or whatever they did would take place. Young people would go for wrestling, they would go for dance, and so on. Here, where the young people meet is either sports or school. As far as I've seen, the South Sudanese community, members of young people from South Sudan, rarely have uh, occasions which celebrate their national or their traditional way. Even marriages are celebrating according to Western system. You remember those days in Malakal, Wow, and Cuba.
Mm.
We used to have these parties dancing to East African music. There was nothing like the traditional Dinka dance and all this. So the urbanization or coming to cities is having a lot of impact on uh, killing some of the practices we used to have. Because there is nowhere here, go to Melbourne or in Sydney, where you will find young people coming to celebrate a certain occasion.
Mm.
And only just this year, during the 11th of July, when they were celebrating the independence, they went to here in Sydney. There was football match, which was attended by young people. They turned up in big numbers, and we had our Australian friends, some ministers of the state of New South Wales, as well as the MPs. They went to participate, and it was a very huge gathering, and people talked after the sport. After that, they moved to a hall where there were speeches. Half of the attendants were young men and girls.
And girls.
Yeah, and that was the first time for them to have such a big gathering. They were dancing, they were talking, and one would have wished that thing should continue because they came to celebrate the Independence Day, but on addition to that, they had to dance to engage in the tribal dance,
Yeah.
which was really very, very rare. So people like you should encourage these young people to come together, girls and young men, to when they have a national day, for example, the day of independence, the um, the day of referendum, whatever, they have to come together and celebrate. That would be a starting point. But as far as we are concerned, our young people socialize with their friends from different communities. Maybe they have sports as their common interest. They will go to football. But with us to revive what brings these people together to celebrate their culture, this is what you people in the media should really find out and encourage, educate them. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we will definitely do that. Thank you so much for your time. We are almost to the end of our program. I would really love to have a lot of conversation with you, but we'll still bring you again to the program as we are navigating the this cultural journey show. We'll continue to talk around the birth, around the initiation, around the marriage, and also around the death. Some of the ceremonies and what people believe of this one. And for those who are tuning in today, so thank you so much for tuning in. We will have come to the end of our program. Uncle Tim, if you have any last word to tell to the audience, please feel free to say that. Otherwise, we'll be coming up to the end of our program in a few seconds.
Thank you. Thank you. A certain word to the listeners.
Yes, a word to listeners, yeah. But otherwise, it's already 8 p.m. But you keep it for the next show. For those who are tuning, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great night, Uncle Tim, and we will be back again with you, and we will cover a topic around marriage, how it is done among the Dinka. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Such. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.